Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. For today's video, we are going to be speaking about being brutally honest. Right. So take note of the word brutal. He needs no introduction. Only see him one deeper time. Him same one. Alright, same name Black Arab Uncle. Whatever that means. Black Arab Uncle. That's your name?
Yes, that's funny a while ago. But yeah, that's easy.
Yeah. So him say him name Black Arab Uncle. So we are speaking about being brutally honest. You see, before now, I would agree that being brutally honest is sometimes necessary. Take note of the word brutal, right? Brutal. But you see, for the past week, I am learning that you don't necessarily have to be brutally honest. You can be honest and eliminate being brutal. Because I am learning now that when you're brutally honest, it comes with a lot of anger, shame, and demeaning, even though what you're saying is honest or what you're saying is true enough.
Right.
But sometimes it comes off away, and then many times many of us who are being brutally honest, we use the excuse like, the truth me I tell you, and you don't like the truth. And as my mother would have said, the truth brings an offense, but it's not a sin, because she said that the Bible said. But you can be honest and be calm and still be loving. Boy, I learned that this week. I learned that this week.
And a man that is 21 years old, plus shipping.
Yeah, plus shipping and handling, I learned that.
You see, I'm glad you mentioned say you can be honest and like not necessarily be brutal, because one of the simplest things and probably one of the most complex forms of honesty, if you tell a friend or somebody who you know so they won't speak. Nobody wants to hear say, yo, you won't stink, move out of my face. Nobody wants to hear that. But at the same time, you're not going to stay here forever and make the person thump you up in your face, and then you have to tell them the truth, especially if somebody with a rate. You not do that still.
No, sir. If your arm green, your clothes frowsy, your head sour, your foot stink, me I gotta tell you. But you see, when you come to the bread business, no, sir.
Right.
People
So,
very touches on that topic, you know.
In like cases like that where you know separate, and then again you can't necessarily know when people are going to be touches either, because for some people some things are more sensitive than others. And then there's this saying that says it's not what you say, it's how you say. So the brutal honesty, sometimes it is necessary, it has its place, but most of the time I'd say it can be less brutal. Me, I'm very harsh. Everybody will know me know that. See,
So
like,
you're brutally
I
honest.
can be, right? And the truth, my friends from like high school and like in a college, they know me for being brutal. People at work know me for being brutal, right? People fear me just by looking at me and hear me talk to persons that I know. That is how I am. But then, that's not necessarily a good thing, right? Because I say, that be please.
Let me tell you, I was thinking about it, before this video, to say if it has its place. Some persons might believe that it has its place. I'm not gonna kill them and say it don't have its place. But for me, I don't want to allow that to have its place if I am going to be honest. I just want to be honest.
But you
because
can be brutally honest and not necessarily, and it doesn't necessarily come from a place of anger.
No, brutally no.
Brutal
comes
not
right, and brutal comes with shame and anger, because if I'm going to say, Jermaine, stop moving the comb from the dresser, because I don't like when you take the comb off of the dresser and put it on the computer table and you keep doing it, right? Some people believe that they have to raise them tone of voice to you and we don't necessarily have to do that,
Me know that.
Yeah.
Because for most people, they have a problem with authority, and when people speak to them a certain way.
Yeah.
So if you are gonna say to me, say, yo, and you know me personally, you know me really take bad. Like, you can't rough me up and expect me to do something. Right? So if you say to me, say, yo, Jermaine, take off the thing off of the, stop put the comb on the computer table, put it back on the dresser. Like I say, alright, cool, but then at the very same time, I might do it again. Because you tell me this one time, I not think about it the next time.
Right.
Doesn't necessarily mean that I'm disregarding what you say. You probably just don't remember. See? So in cases like that, you don't have to, hold! You never say we're gonna put it on, and you don't have to do that. That's why I say it has its place. So in the event where I say it and your system will blatantly like disregard it, like I move it and you say it and I leave it the same place, I'm just not move it again, then you have the right then to be brutally honest.
Yeah, but you can,
you're
right, because you can be firm, you know, but as I say, you know, being brutal comes with a lot of negative connotations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because people, when you say brutally honest, it usually comes with the anger and the shame and the raised voice. But I mean, somebody can do something really awful, and I've learned that this week. And you can just sit down and just have a mild conversation with them, showing where they went wrong and why they should do better. You understand?
Right.
And it work. But it not necessarily, you know, sometimes brutally honest comes in, you know, if you're telling somebody something, like being honest and they're resisting you, people tend to get angry and say, "What's the truth me I tell you?" Blah 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 blah.
Resist even more.
Right. If you're even though you know generally you have some people who thin skin still, you know.
Right.
But it's difficult to deal with persons like that. It's very difficult to deal with people who thin skin because sometimes they force you to become brutal because of how thin skin them be, especially when you know that you are
being truthful.
Because remember, you know, sometimes people think say you probably hurt them when you really want to see the best for them.
Yeah, right, but
really,
like I said that,
like how me tell you sometimes I just want to thump you down. You understand? For your absence and do better. But really you deserve a thump down more while for chewing up. You deserve a thump down more while. But I mean, I have been learning even the other day, other morning, we have a little talk and it just mellow and you see me?
Right.
Yes, and I was being honest. You understand? Even though back then sometimes I could have been brutal, you know, and talk the things then. But boy, I learn and I realize that it'll work.
But you said something a while ago and it kinda actually like interject, but then I say I'm gonna make you finish. What you did say is like you said like probably 2 points before you said the last thing a while ago about the conversation in the week. I now remember exactly what you did say. I don't know why my brain a leg of
Yeah, I get owl.
But for true, like sometimes the way we and then again it also depends because it just clicked back to me, you know. It also depends on the context in which you're talking to the person, the thing that you're talking about. Yes. As I mentioned before, a lot of persons can be very sensitive about particular things. Yes. Right? So be honest, especially if for example, with me and you, Zane, we are bridging. Me do things that you don't necessarily like, and you do things that me not like. You never ever hear me come and say, "Biggie, that Tony is your belly big." I tell you that. Me not gonna come, but your belly big. Trying to come to you in another way. That, cause to me that is disrespectful. See, so me not gonna come to you and say, "Yo, rup. If me have a problem with you, me gonna come to you and say, "Oh, you know," and most of the time me not have a talk about it, and you have to say, "Oh, yeah, move so." And me I say, "Oh, you know, say do something one day and we talk about it." That in itself is honesty. Right. But then it depends. No, remember what me that say. It depends on what the person, or how the person would perceive what you say to them. Because as I say, you want to be honest with the person and things, you know. But then you have to also take into consideration what the person might think and how you are going to say what you say. You see?
And then that too, you know, sometimes can force you not to be honest. Because if you know you have something sensitive to say to somebody, right? Remember, you know, whether it's your spouse or your friend or your family, you would know them to an extent and know what they can digest. Right? Even though you can't always be 100% accurate, because sometimes you want to say something to somebody and you think they might react in a bad way, but them take it easy. And then sometimes you think they might take it easy, but them react in a one way. You understand? But sometimes if you know the person to an extent, certain things will make it very, very difficult for you to say to them. Because you're going to just say, yo, just... You get what I say? You understand what I mean? So sometimes it forces you not to be honest.
Right. But then, with the way you say, well, like I say, sometimes you can't necessarily be 100% honest. Me did always think, say, yo, honesty is the best way to go. But in the world that we live in, I've grown to realize that you cannot be 100% honest.
Yeah,
especially when you deal with people.
Sometimes you have to just buy a padlock for your mouth. You get what I'm saying? And just hold your mouth.
But for real,
just lock your mouth.
Sometimes,
you know say?
Sometimes, like the brutal honesty, it can be beneficial. But then it also has to do with the relationships that you have with people. So for persons where not necessarily is a close to you, you're probably gonna tell them something where true and it hurt them. Like there's this saying that says the truth hurts but it works. And that is true for me. Right?
No, but the truth hurting doesn't necessarily mean that it is brutal, you know. Because I can say something to you like how me I speak now and say, boy, Jermaine X. And it's really painful, but that's the truth. But sometimes people, when people use the saying to say the truth hurt, them usually angry and try to shame you. You understand?
That's true.
People do that, and it not necessarily means that you have to carry on that way, but you can sit and speak with someone. Look at me personally, me like people that I can be 100% honest with. I can talk.
Put down, come go.
No, I'm telling you, I change. I'm telling you, I change from being brutally honest. Me, dash the brutal and just be honest.
Me now dash the brutal.
You get to me say?
It's a matter of knowing when to be.
Yeah, me just like to be honest with person, especially if you care about the person. Yeah, I want to be able to be honest.
Like how you're honest when you come on to food and everything there.
Yeah, me
so
no
nobody can never ever cook to please you, right?
Nobody. No, if one time you cook Jermaine and it not taste good, me I go tell you. Me nah tell you. You fry the chicken and it's salt. Me tell you.
And the tail part and the chicken salt.
More tail part, chicken and tail.
Don't lie.
If that I'm going to say, I'm tell you as my friend, family, spouse, the only thing. Probably my spouse, yeah, when we get married. If I'm out. Yeah, I'm going to tell her I'm not nobody outside, tell her. But other people other than the mouth issue, I'm not going to say anything. But if I really rate your man, certain, well, yeah, I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to talk to you. And if you're not a thin-skinned person, because there are persons out there when we rate, but them thin skin.
Right.
So certain things, I'm not going to say to them because they will never ever see what you are trying to say. Especially if it goes against something that they think going to work for them, or if you understand what I mean.
Say that the other day, I do an assignment, Zine, and a part of the assignment was to evaluate how business executives make revisions after making a particular decision. And one of the things I read an article, and the article was saying that most executives lack a thing called intellectual humility. That is the ability to put aside what you know or the notion that you have, to open your mind to accept something new.
Yeah.
That is a skill that a lot of people
don't have. It's true.
And me find myself in a position in some areas where I don't have that skill. Where me just feel like saying, a long time me I do this, I can't do this wrong so long. Right. So when somebody introduces something new to me don't necessarily warm up to it right away. Right? So then, and then again, it's morals too, because if a person cannot evaluate them own self, no matter what you say to them, they might just feel like say you try belittle them or you rush them and things like that. So I just, me think that like the brutality in the honesty can kinda like there are levels to it.
Yeah.
Me that's it, there are levels to it. So sometimes based on the person and situation, you have to put it to them hard.
Well, yeah, true. It, especially if me don't want to sound like me a flip flop, but especially if you're really trying to save the person or you want to help to put a stop to something, sometimes you have to get real, and real means more time you have to raise your voice.
Right.
You get what me I
But
say?
then even in cases like that, it still goes back to like the person that you're dealing with.
Yeah. So you have to know when to turn it on and turn
you
it
have to know,
off.
and then bearing in mind as well that sometimes, and then, as we say, it depends on the situation because persons will have different reactions to different situations. So what you say, how you say, the context of the situation, a whole heap of things going to be honest.
Yes.
A whole heap of things because you may, for example, you may say to me, yo, you know, say the rice never have enough butter, but then me process it as the food not taste good. And me and then I say every minute I cook, every day I go say, yo, the food not taste good, and then me I go cuss. Me not ever want to cook again. That's just an example.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah, but me get what you say with the example.
It's like perception plays a big role in all of that. It plays a very big role because
and also interpretation.
right. So you might
Probably interpretation have a big role, you know. Boy, sometimes we can.
Why
Cause more time people can misinterpret what somebody else mean, you know. Cause you can't say something because as you say, you say I can be saying that you ever put enough butter in your rice and you interpret it as being that the food not taste good.
Right.
But it's just that the food did taste okay, but I just think you should have put a little bit more butter in
the
there.
rice.
But there's no negative attachments to it, but your interpretation. Yeah, and an interpretation. And for really have a fucking, if you have a relationship with somebody, whether it's a friendship or an intimate one, I think you should be able to be 100% honest.
Like
with people. Because
honest.
You know, say what I not like is that in relationship sometimes people think say you know for have disagreements, and then the first sign of disagreement, you know, you have a break up or you stop talk to the person or you know deal with the person. Yeah, again and then something. But in any relationship, whether it's a friendship or an intimate one, problem have to come up in there. But you see, many of us, we were not taught how to resolve our differences. You get what I say? We were not taught how to resolve our differences, you know. The first sign of problem where I say, yo, I cut off them link there. I not deal with that person there. Instead of we just sit and be honest with each other. For say, boy, you know, say when you say don't move the pen, I feel like say, you know, want me touch your pen then. And just be honest with me, and for me say, no, why would I not want you to touch my pen? Or maybe me can be honest with you and say, don't touch my pen, then carry your own pen when you come here. And then you must say, alright, what do you mean by that? For me say, I don't have a problem with you coming and writing, but when you write, more you carry your own pen. You love touch people pen. And but I pen matter. When you love touch people pen and you write them out and them and don't carry your own pen.
Right.
But it no mean say the link have to cut off because I tell you if you carry your own pen.
But then for some
you
people,
get what I say?
For some people, to them that is just you saying, watch out, brother, I'm not rate you. I'm not rate you enough for you use my pen.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be like that.
But then watch out, and that's the next thing, you know. That is one of the next things that cause a lot of problems when it comes down to problems in relationships and how people feel and what.
Yeah.
Feelings complicated. I've come to the realization that feelings are very complex stuff. Really. As they say, it shouldn't be that way, but who are you to tell a person to feel a particular way and not to feel a particular way?
But I'm saying, communication and comprehension is key.
Effective communication.
You understand?
So the E word.
You must always say something. We should always say something, because one thing, if you are an overthinker, I overthink things sometimes. I don't consider myself as an overthinker, but sometimes I read into things and look into it and talk to myself in my mind and say, I wonder what this mean. I wonder, you know what I say? Right. But I always try to settle myself to say, no man, I couldn't that mean, I couldn't that she mean.
Right.
You understand? Yeah. Because I have grown to understand that problem are gonna happen in any relationship, but I am always more to resolve. If not, I'm not gonna say I'm perfect. Hey, me getting on my feelings sometimes. No rap with me now. I'm getting on my feelings, me not lie, but I am the person who always, everybody who know me can give me that. I'm always ready to resolve one thing with me. I'm always ready to resolve, because if me rate you, I don't think certain things. I'm not gonna say if you try to kill me or you bad mind me and there's something that want like me an idiot and laugh up and talk up with you, But if I do nothing detrimental, I'm always willing to work things out. At some stage, I go up in my feelings, but then I go work. But mind you, I'm going to tell you, I go talk and stay with it on my chest. You see me? I go talk with it on my mind, man. I go talk.
But that is exactly that is how it should be. If you have a brethren or you have a relationship with a person or persons, Zine, and I feel like me like the narrator in one of them other people can't get lost in. But anyway, you have a relationship with people and when you have a disagreement, you must be able to, and this is just my opinion. But come in the comments section. This is just my opinion. If you have a disagreement with a person or a group of persons or a friend, both parties should be able to state their points and come to an agreement.
Yeah, I was supposed to listen and process, not just listen to respond, because of that happen in a lot of conflict, and right. There's no resolution because people are listening to respond.
And they don't necessarily get the perspective of the other
right,
person.
And everybody want to prove them point.
Right.
No, me think say one person should have, I should have my say, you have your say. And we come and be real and honest and evaluate the situation and come to an agreement.
And you know, realize school actually makes sense. Because like the same thing we are talking about is a part of one of my courses that I'm currently doing. Negotiation, conciliation, arbitration. Yeah. So like with the whole concept of, or the whole topic of honesty and communicating effectively with different people, we have to first understand what your individual thought or the way as you say, the way persons would interpret a particular thing that is said plays a lot in how you resolve an issue.
Yeah.
So it's not to say that you can. For some people, you just can't be honest with them.
That is true. That is true.
You just cannot be. I just say it already. People with thin skin, you can't be.
You have to just go around the honesty or certain things. You just not talk about it again.
Right.
You just no matter bring it up and try to explain for come to a resolve. No, because them are just reading to things.
You can't.
And things like this, that and the third. No, some people, I'm telling you, they are going to destroy themselves, and no matter what you do, you can't save them. So some of them you have just buy the padlock for your mouth and just keep yourself. But you see, why? Me not really like them kind of people, because as I said earlier, boy, me love talk out things.
Right. But then, as I say again, as like we are reiterating the same point, some people, like some people who cannot appreciate truth when you tell them. Different from people who you tell them appreciate and they just don't feel like so when you are said then to do.
Yeah, or even people where we make an adjustment for a week and then after the week then go back to like square one.
But for real, but a serious thing you talk about, and then in the event to where you say something to a person and then make an adjustment, if the person decides say watch out, even though what this person says to me is true, if that person hasn't said to themselves, say, watch it, you know, say, like going deep thought with themselves and say, watch it, you know, say, full time now, but drop them little thing. For example, if a person love teeth, and you catch them at teeth and say, watch it, people are going to kill if you not stop teeth. See, if them not see where them are going dead, if them not stop teeth, them are going to continue teeth until they come to the point to say, watch it. Yeah, like, for example, somebody with them teeth with dead. The man say, yo, you know, that's true, because look how the man, look how Tony Johnson can dead, and look how the man got dead. That are things like that. For some people, that's what it takes to get them to
and to more interject on that way, you say, like the person take a time until them say, boy, we are say it's true. You as a truth teller, you have to learn to, like, you have to restrain yourself.
That is also
because sometimes when you want good for a person, sometimes you will overstep your boundaries, and then sometimes you become brutal, and then it make you be right, and then it make you become bitter, and you're angry and start resenting the person and them look weird. At the end of the day, you know, the decision is left up to the person. So if you still concerned, you'll be gentle with the person and remind them, but as he said, you can't become overbearing because you want this for the person, you want this for the person. The operative thing there is the person has to want it for themselves.
Yeah, that's if you're pre-psychology, right? For anybody to get help, the person must first admit to themselves that they need help. And after say, yo, I have a problem, I need help.
Right.
Zine? And you go back to the point where you say, yo, sometimes you want good things for people, and it leads you to be brutal to the person. But then think about the cause and effect of brutality.
Yeah.
Right? For some people, brutality works.
Yeah, because some people can deal with it and it get them to change.
For some people,
where you have some people them can't take being brutal.
And pre what happens in most Jamaican homes. Me can speak about that when I live a foreign. And I've spoken to a lot of persons. There are persons here do not know anything about tenderness. Like people in the country, males, females, children.
Yeah, because that's how they were cultured.
Yeah. So when you gonna say the truth to them, like them don't know if I accept calm truth. Them are gonna feel like them are gonna run away and say, move from us and go with your foolishness. And that now, man, that's not true. If you don't do that, then
it's not resonating with them. And it's true that sometimes like in teaching too. Any school that you go as a culture, because you will work at some school and you will say, students, take the book off the table. And they will just move and take the book and have to say it a second time. When some schools you work at, and that's what they respond, right? Where you get that from? While they will respond to that. Understand? So it's the same with people. But as he said, being brutally honest as its place, but I am learning that you don't have to be brutally honest all the time. You can be honest in a calm way, because that works for some people. I'm realizing, I'm telling you, you have to just know your audience, yeah, or know the person who you are going to be honest with, and know when to be brutally honest, and just know when to be honest in a calm way. That's my conclusion.
I think about it. My conclusion is this. Everything or most things have their place. Brutal honesty has its place. You can always be brutal, and there are a lot of considerations to take when you're thinking about honesty and how you're going to talk to a particular person. If you have a message you need to convey, think about it. As him said, choose your audience.
Yes.
Think about what you're going to say to the person. You have to choose specific words. You have to choose the tone of voice. Everything. The person's mood can affect the effectiveness of the communication. So there's a whole lot of things to think about. That is my conclusion.
Alright, thank you guys for watching. You can drop your comments in the comment section.
And also send video requests so we can have further discussions on more topical issues.
Yeah, cause from what the most discussion we are doing, I'm like,
so you can send you guys in comments, post your comments in the comment section. Tell us what discussions we should have next, especially as it relates to families, Jamaican families, upbringings, and so on and so forth. And
yes. Alright. Oh yeah, thank you guys for watching. That discussion is just mellow still, but yeah, I like it.
Apart from the show thing that goes.